This week on the Organized Life
A lot
podcast.
of times people don't even realize the things that you're most passionate about can actually set you up for burnout more than the things you don't like. Because when you like something, you toss your boundaries out the window. So whether it's a job you love, your kids, a relationship, you're like, I could spend hours doing this. I remember talking to a new mom friend, and she's like, you're my first adult conversation in like 2 days, because she was just so all in on her kids. And so,
Well, Daniela, hold on. That is so good. I really want us to think about that. The things that we enjoy the most can cause us burnout. I've never heard anybody say it like that.
you have too much of a good thing. Think if you only ate ice cream
Well, I've heard it
all the
that,
time,
yep, I've
24,
heard that before, but
yeah.
we don't think about our kids. We don't think about it like, okay, okay, and that was one of my issues. I enjoy seeing my boys play sports.
Hmm.
I threw everything out the window for that.
Yeah.
Like I
And you
was at
lose
every
yourself.
game, driving myself across North Carolina to make it to games. Hey, and welcome to the Organized Life podcast, where we are creating a movement with powerful organizing strategies and systems that save you space, time, energy, and money. I am your host, TakillaRene, the life organizing strategist, professional organizer, and the owner of Extreme Audacity Organized Solutions. And you guys, I'm so excited to announce again, don't know when you're hearing this, but we have the organized life masterclass live and ready for you. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can create the organized life without buying more bins, without more overwhelm, go ahead and sign up for the organized life masterclass. And with that being said, I'm also super excited to have my guest here with me today, Miss Danielle Wolfe. Welcome, Danielle.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
Yes, thank you. So Danielle is a burnt out prevention specialist and a self care strategist. So Danielle, that's a little bit about you. Please tell the Organized Life listeners a little bit more about you and how you got started in this field of expertise.
Absolutely. So, like you said, while my title is currently a burnout prevention specialist and self care strategist, I've actually been also a licensed master social worker for the last 30 years. So, I'm clinically trained in all things mindfulness, stress management, coping skills, parenting, all of that type of stuff. And my journey actually started with my own burnout, probably about almost 20 years
Mm,
ago. I was going through a divorce. My kids were really young, about 4 and 6 months old, and I'm a high achiever. I like to prove that I'm capable. I want to do it all, be it all. At the time, I was not great at asking for help. And, so I was doing all the things. And on the outside, it looked like I had it all together. It looked like I was checking all the boxes. But on the inside, I was definitely falling short. I was exhausted. I was overwhelmed. I was constantly filled with guilt and questioning if I was doing all the right things for my kids. I was showing up irritable, snapping at them more than I wanted to, and drove myself straight into my own burnout. And so I had this kind of epiphany moment one night during this surprise October storm. We were without power for 5 days. I was bailing out my basement for the umpteenth time. And I was like, this is not who I am. This is not who I know I could be. This is not who I want my kids to remember growing up.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And, as a true caretaker, sometimes I was so great at helping everybody else. And so I started to practice what I was great at helping everyone else with for myself. And it was small, micro habits that I started with. I started a daily gratitude practice, listing 3 to 5
mm,
things I was grateful for every day. My grocery store had free childcare at the time, so I started utilizing that. I know, fantastic, right? And working through again my mindset and limiting beliefs. If I would run into someone feeling like I needed to over explain why I wasn't with the kids and justifying it, so it was a process. As well as I joined a gym that had free childcare. And I found by taking these small micro moments for myself,
mm-hmm,
not only did I show up better at work with my kids, with my friends, but my kids were showing up better too. They were happy. They were
mm,
excited to tell me who they met, as well as it modeled for them how to take care of yourself, how to make yourself a priority. Now, as young adults in their early 20s, these are some of the things we talk about as far as how they're managing their stress, how they're handling things in their own life and with their jobs. And I found as I was going through this transformation myself, people were coming to me and asking what I was doing, how was I fitting this in, how was I making these things happen. And I found, I think we're all in some ways looking for that validation and permission that it's okay to take that time for ourselves. And so that's how I began coaching other people in this way. I wrote a book on it so that you can guide yourself through the entire process. I have a podcast, I do speaking events. And so I just want to find as many ways as possible to help you make that transformation and start living that life and that version of yourself now.
Oh, that's so good. So you've been doing this for like over 27 years. You've been helping people navigate through stress, burnout, and transitions. So
Absolutely.
from your professional lens, what are the biggest mistakes us high achievers, high functioning people are making when trying to manage their time, their energy, and even possibly their money?
Yeah, there's a couple of different things that can show up depending as well on your personality type and who you are. But some of the things I see consistently have to do with one, our boundaries. A lot of times people don't even realize the things that you're most passionate about can actually set you up for burnout more than the things you don't like. Because when you like something, you toss your boundaries out the window. So whether it's a job you love, your kids, a relationship, you're like, I could spend hours doing this. I remember talking to a new mom friend and she's like, you're my first adult conversation in like 2 days because she was just so all in on her kids. And so,
Well, Daniela, hold on. That is so good. Like, I mean, I really want us to think about that. The things that we enjoy the most can cause us burnout. I've never heard anybody say it like that.
you have too much of a good thing. Think if you only ate ice cream
Well, I've heard
all the
that.
time,
Yep, I've
right?
heard that before. But
Yeah.
we don't think about our kids. We don't think about it like, okay, I enjoy, okay, and that was one of my issues. I enjoy seeing my boys play sports.
Mm-hmm.
I threw everything out the window for that.
Yeah.
Like I
And you
was at
lose
every
yourself.
game, driving myself across North Carolina to make it to games.
Yeah. And so you
Oh,
lose yourself in that process and you realize where are you falling on your priority list at that point in time when everything is all about the sport and the games and those kind of things. And when we lose ourselves, even if it's something we love, we're not filling ourselves up in those ways that bring us energy, that bring us excitement, that recharge us and those kind of things. And that's when it comes to, looking at how are you thinking about your time and your energy and where you fall on your list. And so mindset is the first thing that we work on when I help clients, because I believe when you think differently, you feel differently. When you feel differently, you act differently. And if you just go through and start acting differently without that thought behind it, you're still going to either be running through your to-do list or, questioning, should I be doing this, or giving yourself a guilt trip or those kind of things. So we have to start with the way you're thinking about your time, how you think about taking free time, how you feel about creating space for yourself in your day, in your life. And we start with that piece of it. The second
yeah,
part is we look at your time planning. How do you fit in? When we talk about work-life balance, it's not about everything being equal. That's not realistic.
yeah.
Work-life balance comes from your ability to adapt, pivot, have resilience in those boundaries. Like I said, I love boundaries.
Mm,
Boundaries get such a bad rap, but they're actually my favorite B word because they
yes,
are a gift to you and everybody else around you.
absolutely.
When you block your time intentionally by sorting through your priorities, making yourself a priority as well, and putting those pieces in your calendar, that's how you're going to stick with it. Because I don't know about you, but if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. It's easy to just forget or skim onto something else. And then the last piece is self-care. And it's not necessarily that fluffy kind of people think of, like a nice to have, like a bubble bath or a
Right, right,
these
right.
are like real practical, actionable steps that can be done in micro moments throughout your day. And it's everything from how you sleep, how you eat, how you move, how you dress, how you decorate and organize your home, how you connect with others, how you think about money, as well as the traditional personal development like meditation, mindfulness, journaling. And we have these
Mm,
three pieces together. You start to see, that you have those boundaries in place, that you can start doing things in a way that feel good not just on the outside, but also on
Mm-hmm.
the inside. And like I said, they can be done in as little as 30 seconds, 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And, it's not about always being calm and zen, but about putting yourself in a position that, like I said, you're not me where you're irritable, snapping, exhausting, and all those places that I was in before. So definitely, recognizing where your burnout's coming from, recognizing, what you can do and take control of to start making that difference are the pieces that kind of help you find that success.
I love that when you talked about self care, we're not talking about a self care day
No.
or self care, a trip. Those little bitty things that we can implement throughout the day to take care of ourselves when, this whole self care notion that we got going on around the world is just so overrated. Like, really, I think that what you're talking about, that's real self care, not a trip, because trips will make you need a whole nother vacation, right? Even, those spa days, those are good, but, they're not lasting.
They're
But
not
doing those
sustainable.
little bitty things really will help you throughout the day.
Yeah, like you wouldn't eat on Sunday and think you're not going to be starving by Tuesday. You can't just practice self care once on the weekend and think you're good throughout the week. It
Once a
really,
year.
yeah, it's those daily practices throughout your day. You think of your phone. How many times are you checking the battery, plugging it in to charge it? When we practice that self care, like I said, we are recharging ourselves. That's the energy we're showing up with, that we're sharing with everybody else. Just like a bad mood is contagious, so is that positive energy. And so you
Yes.
need to be aware of taking that time for you truly benefits everyone around you.
Ah, that's so good. So you talked about time a lot just a minute ago. Many people think that time is their problem. When we think about the organized life, many people think that their space is the problem, but we're not gonna go there. We're gonna just talk about this time. But you teach something more deeper. And what's really at the root of overwhelm when people are feeling like they're doing something, they're doing everything, but they feel like they're falling behind.
Mm-hmm. A lot of times they're not doing the right things. They
Mm.
probably are doing everything, but is it really the true things, not only that need to get done, because that's realistic, you have to do some things on a day-to-day basis, whether it's for your family or your job, but are you also doing the things where, again, you're part of that priority, you're part of that daily to-do list? Because if not, that's where you're not feeling fulfilled. That's why it feels like you're behind, because you're missing that piece that addresses what you need. You've taken care of everybody else's need but yourself. And just like if you fed everybody else at the table except for you, you're still going to be hungry. And that's that
Mm-hmm.
same feeling emotionally that we get, mentally when we're exhausted, and even physically when we just keep running on empty.
Yeah, that's good. So you went through a major life shift while you were raising your young children. What was the moment you realized that something needed to change, and how did that shape the way you're approaching life today?
Yeah, like I said, we had this surprise October storm, out of nowhere, and we were without power. And I was just carrying the weight of everything by myself. And
Mm,
like I said, that high achiever in me was struggling to ask for help, because at the time I didn't see it as the strength that it truly is. And so I started with that gratitude practice, slowly shifting my mindset, looking at things from a place of
the little bitty things.
yeah, I mean, there's a whole
Yeah.
science behind that, what part of your brain you're activating when you do a gratitude practice. It's not just about that feel good at the moment of recognizing something that you're grateful for, thankful for, feel good about, but it also trains your brain to start looking for the positive and noticing that positive throughout your entire day. It's almost kind of like when you decide, I'm going to buy a red minivan, and all of a sudden you start seeing red minivans
That's
everywhere.
right. That's
It's not that there's more of them, but now you've turned on that RAS, that reward
mm,
activating system in your brain, to just subconsciously pick up all these subtle things you never noticed before. And so gratitude practices help you start seeing those great moments, those positive moments throughout your day. And so it compounds on itself the more you do these small practices.
that makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
So on the Organized Life podcast, we talk about creating the organized life.
Mhm.
So, from your perspective, what is self care? How does self care connect to organization? Not luxury, but as systems.
Yeah. Like I said, one of the pillars I do talk about is how you decorate and organize your home, how you do that in your life. It has to do with a lot of the flow of the routines, the daily habits that we
Yeah.
go through. That organization is key. If you're spending 20 minutes trying to find your keys in the morning because you don't know where it is, your kids trying to find their left sneaker because God knows where it ended up at the end of the day, that disrupts your flow of how you plan and roll through your day. And like I said, that work-life balance comes from how you can adapt and pivot. And it's hard to do when you don't know where some of those necessary tools are to go throughout your day. It's hard to roll through in a smooth way. And so that organization piece is so key to just keeping you into alignment to what you're focusing on, so that those little details don't become, kind of that rock that you feel over and over again in your shoe or something like that.
Yeah. So, it's so funny because you talk about those missing keys. I've never wanted to lose my keys, but my boys started driving and I let them use my car. And one morning I got ready to go to work and he did not hang them back where they go.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about frustration.
Yeah. I probably would have gotten loud. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sorry. It
Oh,
would have been a little
honey,
loud.
it was like 6 o'clock in the morning and I was ready to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he couldn't find him because he was disjointed. Like he was just all over the place because I had woken him up.
Mm-hmm.
And so he didn't even know where to look. He didn't know where he was at, furthermore, right? So, maybe let me. My kids have never lost my keys again since then. Okay.
Because it disrupted the flow of your morning. And so that's
Yes.
that organized part. It might seem like, what's the purpose? How is it so important? I just did a post today too. Sometimes we don't realize how well our systems are working for us until they're not.
Until they don't.
In my example, I had gone away last weekend to see family. It was great, but I didn't do my Sunday meal prep then. And that whole next week, I was a little off because I had to actually make my breakfast and lunch that actual day rather than having it just grab and go in the fridge. And it's the tiniest little thing. And yeah, I functioned, but you just realize, like, wow, that really makes such a difference in how my morning flows. It's
But
because I'm making less decisions. I'm not, stuck.
that's not a tiny thing though. That's huge. Like getting those meals together so you can walk out the door is game changing.
Knowing where your keys are, huge.
No, it's game changing.
Yeah.
Those may seem little, but like the things that are maybe harder or a little bit more time consuming on the front end, they are easier and less time consuming on the back end,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And vice versa. If it's easier on the front end, it's gonna be challenging on the back end. So that's why you're like, I didn't do my meals like that. That's easy on the front end because I didn't do anything. Now I've got the challenge of figuring out what I'm gonna
Yeah.
eat.
Yeah. So
Uh,
that organization, like you said, it's so important in just creating those daily habits and systems to help you live not just, that moment, but that lifestyle that feels put together.
yeah. Okay, Daniela, we're gonna flip the mic right now. Give you an opportunity to ask me a question. I'm excited to answer.
Yeah. So when you're working with clients, what's your favorite part of that organization? Is the beginning and looking at the overall process? Is it at the end when you have that finished product? Like, what part do you truly, really love kind of to dig into?
I think it's always the first session. So
Okay.
I always have a first session, right? I don't know if I'll have two, but I'll always have at least one. And the sensation that they get just from the small progress we made, it may seem insurmountable to them. It may seem like a lot, but to me, it's just a little pebble inside this large, overall picture.
Mhm.
And they are so relieved. Their mind is blown, and there's so much peace is lifted. I mean, so much peace is brought back to them. The weight starts to lift off of them, and they start to see a glimpse of hope.
Mhm.
That's my favorite part.
I love that. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, that's really what you do it for. It's like the reward is in your clients having the relief,
Yes.
getting some of that pressure off of them. So that's my favorite part. Even I work with clients virtually. It's always in them sending me the wins. Look what
Mhm.
I did. So that's my favorite part.
No, I love that. I totally agree. Knowing that we made a difference for somebody is the
Yes,
best part.
yes. So, a lot of people struggle with guilt when trying to prioritize themselves. You were just kind of talking about that. How do you help your clients move past that guilt and actually put themselves on their to do list?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that mindset piece, it takes a little bit of work. It's not like a quick one and done, but we're going to look at number one, what is the statement that's coming up? Is it
Mm.
I should, I have to, those kind of things. And you kind of looking at where it comes from. Some of us, some of these things get so ingrained in us, like I have to work 24 hours, seven and hustle hard if I want to get ahead. A good mom always puts her kids first, or those kind of things like
Mm.
where did that come from, and kind of break it down a little bit, as well as we go through an activity sometimes, whether we're talking in person or I have you write it down and read it back, because you actually can process it like somebody else is saying it, and think like if somebody said that statement to you that you keep telling yourself, how would you respond? The thing is, we talk to ourselves more than we talk to anybody else in the whole entire world, and yet we're never as kind to ourselves as we are to everybody else. And so to start treating ourselves with that same kindness and compassion, and respond to yourself the same way you would respond to your best friend or your sibling or your kids or something like that, and really start changing the conversation. And then we have to start practicing it. And so it's not perfect, that well-worn path of how you're thinking, it's been there forever. So it's easy to fall into that thought, but we're going to create like a new neural pathway, a new way of thinking. And so we're going to practice it. We're going to go over it on repetition, kind of like if you were going hiking and you were creating a new trail in the woods. You know that in order for it to be trampled down and easy to follow, you got to go over it and over it and over it. And so we're going to catch ourselves thinking that old pattern and now replace it with that new statement.
Mm-hmm.
So just like if your thought is, I always have to put everybody else first to be a good employee, a good partner, a good mom. Now you might say, you know what? I'm just as important as everybody else, and I'm going to take care of me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you catch yourself and you start to replace it. And that's how we start over time changing that mindset, changing
Yes.
the way we're thinking about things, so that then when we put ourselves on our to do list, we've worked through those guilty statements.
Mm-hmm.
An easy way to get them to come up sometimes is just sit on your couch for 10, 15 minutes without your phone, without the remote, without anything else, and just sit there and see what comes up for you. It can be really awkward and uncomfortable. You kind of have to get to that uncomfortable spot to see what are those thoughts, and that's where we can start breaking it down.
Yeah, that's so good. Um, you've worked with people navigating divorce, parenting, caregiving, and so much more, right? How can someone maintain their sense of organization and stability when life feels unpredictable? A lot of my clients deal with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it can be hard because there are so many things that happen outside of your control. But to sometimes ground yourself in the parts you do have control over
Yes.
is how to find a semblance of that. For me, that looks like I have a set morning and evening routine. They're not these massive, elaborate things. They look different, but they're made up of the same things. My morning always has some movement and meditation. Some days I might only have 5, 10 minutes. Some days I have a little bit longer. And then my evening has my skincare and an actual book. Sometimes I only get through 3 sentences, sometimes it's 3 pages. But the consistency of how I start and end my day is the only two things I know I have absolute control over once my feet hit the floor. And so finding maybe 5 minutes that you have control over, finding those grounding moments, creating possibly a new routine and habit, it takes a little time, but finding those things that you can have control over is where you're going to start to then, ground yourself in not letting the chaos of everything in all the time.
That's so good. Do like a lot of times get lost in all the things that are going on. But if
Mhm.
you stay grounded in what's been actually working for you, right? That meditation, that movement, that skincare, all of those things, it still makes you feel a sense of like accomplishment,
Absolutely.
right?
You
I
get the
love that you,
dopamine hit too. You get the chemical,
yeah,
thumbs up.
I love that you said I can read three sentences or 3 pages, right? Because a lot of times, and this is definitely me, I won't feel like I've done enough because I only read 3 sentences. It's like, oh, I wasted my time. Or I won't read because I'll say, I know that I don't have that much time. Let me just do something else. So I love that. It puts it in a different perspective.
Absolutely. It's not about the quantity, it's about the consistency.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. I
And
like
that
that.
consistency is how you make things happen. And to change the way you look at it and give yourself that grace,
Yeah.
give that
Yeah.
that
Grace.
grace. And just understand, we're not perfect. We're all human. There might be
Yeah.
some days, right? You mess up, you forget to do it or something like that, or you respond in a way you didn't mean to. It's okay, as long as you acknowledge it, take accountability for it, and then go forward rather than unpacking and staying in that place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we hear a lot about time management, right? But not enough about managing our energy.
Mm-hmm.
How should people be thinking differently about managing their energy if they want to have a more balanced life?
Yeah. A term I've come across that I love to talk about is our mental fitness. A lot of times we talk about our physical fitness. We
Yeah.
know, we need to go to the gym, we need to do reps. If I was going to run a marathon, I wasn't going to go outside and start running 26 miles. I might start with walking 1 mile, jogging a half a mile. I build
Mm-hmm.
up that consistency so that I build strength over time to handle things physically. And so, like you were saying, to build that same way mentally, to be able to handle that stress, to be able to handle those things when you practice mental fitness. And there's so many different ways to do that through mindfulness, through these different practices. You start to put in the reps and build the strength to be able to then handle the same kind of things. And so that when life happens, because that's always, it's all out of our control, majority
Life
of the
is gonna
time.
happen.
But
Life,
you have the strength to be able to kind of stay solid and weather through it rather than get bowled over by it.
yeah, because life is gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if someone is listening and they are overwhelmed, exhausted, and they're ready to make this change that you're talking about, but they just don't know where to start, where is the first step what's the first step that they should take in creating this life that feels good, it feels manageable, and it feels like something they actually want to live?
Yeah, I think just to, start small, even if, you start thinking one phrase you hear yourself say, 1 minute block of time, you're going to start setting aside for yourself. It could be as small as 1 minute where you set a timer and you don't do anything, maybe except for some breathing and some shoulder shrugs. Studies have
Mm-hmm.
shown just that 1 minute is going to lower your heart rate, lower your cortisol levels, lower your stress levels, as well as give you the dopamine hit. But then also, to start building these small practices, I have a great free resource on my website called the Reclaim Your Time in 10-Minute Blocks cheat sheet. And so, as we're talking about creating this time for yourself, this is a great resource to not only give you over 20 ideas of how to create that space for yourself, but then what to do with it. Because sometimes if we don't have a plan of how we're going to spend that time for ourselves, you get sucked into social media, you throw in
Yes.
the laundry, all of a sudden you're derailed and you have no free time for yourself because you didn't plan for how to spend it. So you can grab that on my website and download that. And I'd love to know how it worked for you or how maybe I can help support you with that.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. When we take something away, you got to replace it with something. You're gonna replace it with something. We
Mm-hmm.
just gotta replace it with something productive, something that's pushing us towards purpose, something that's maybe self care, all of those things. Because we gonna replace it, and like you said, it could be replaced with social media. It could be replaced with a number of things, but replacing it with something that's actually going to benefit you. is the
Something
key.
that makes you happy.
Yeah.
Know?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Daniela, thank you so much for being here. Would you please tell the Organized Life listeners where they can find you, what you're up to, and what's coming for you this season?
Yep. Like I said, my website, I forgot to say the name, it's bestdlife.com. And you can find me there. You can find me on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. You can also listen to my podcast, which you are a guest on as well, Bestie Life with Daniela, and that's on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you listen to podcasts as well.
Awesome. You guys will make sure we have all of that information for you in the show notes and in the description, depending on where you're watching it. And for all the Organized Life listeners, remember we got the masterclass that's ready for you to join. I'm sure you'll be blessed by it and you'll thank me later. And if whatever strategy or system you're putting in place is not saving you in all four areas, space, time, energy, and money, be sure to tweak it. Be sure to rethink it, revisit it, see what's working for you, do more of that. The things that aren't working for you, we want to subtract that, okay? And if you want to be a guest here on the Organized Life podcast, send us an email at info@extremeaudacity.com. We'll get you into rotation. We'll get, if you have a question, also, we'll get that into rotation. And until next time, ciao.